Sigmas, you've been through fire. You've walked alone while the world stared in confusion. But what if I told you there's one weakness even the strongest Sigma male? You've built an impenetrable mindset, mastered self-sufficiency, and conquered solitude. But what if, despite all of that, there was still something that could bring you to your knees? Picture this: a lone wolf, fearless and untamed, navigating the wilderness with unshakable confidence. No pack to depend on, no distractions, just pure independence. But suddenly, the ground shifts beneath him, a force he never anticipated pulling him down. It's not an enemy. It's not fear. It's something deeper. Every Sigma male, no matter how strong, no matter how disciplined, has one weakness. A force so powerful that even the most unshakable minds struggle against it. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Could it be that even Sigmas, masters of their own fate, are blind to their greatest weakness? Sigmas, today, we're diving deep into the weakness that even the strongest Sigma male can't overcome. Buckle up. Number 1. The lone wolf's dilemma. Sigma males are wired differently. You don't seek the spotlight, nor do you crave validation from others. Instead, you move through life with quiet confidence, forging your own path without needing approval. This autonomy is your greatest asset. It gives you strength, resilience, and the ability to thrive where others falter. But like all strengths, it comes with a price. That price, emotional detachment. The psychology behind Sigma emotional detachment. The Sigma male mindset is rooted in independence. You've likely learned through experience that relying too much on others leads to disappointment. Maybe you've been let down before, or perhaps you simply realized early on that self-sufficiency is the key to freedom. This isn't just a personal quirk. It's a psychological defense mechanism. When you prioritize logic over emotion, you gain control over your reactions and decisions. This makes you incredibly effective in high-pressure situations, capable of making rational choices when others might break down. But over time, this logical approach can create an emotional disconnect, not just from others, but from yourself. Why emotional walls form. Sigma males build walls, not out of fear, but out of necessity. You've seen the chaos emotions can bring, and rather than being swept away by them, you've learned to compartmentalize. You analyze situations, measure responses, and ensure emotions don't cloud your judgment. This serves you well in many aspects of life: career, leadership, problem solving. However, in relationships, it can be a challenge. Have you ever been told, "You're impossible to read," or "I can never tell what you're thinking"? That's because, for many Sigmas, emotions aren't expressed outwardly. They're internalized, processed in silence, and often left unspoken. The hidden cost of emotional detachment. While this self-sufficiency makes you powerful, humans, by nature, seek connection, and even the most independent Sigma isn't immune to that. The problem is that emotional walls not only keep others out, they can trap you inside. You may find it difficult to trust others with your vulnerabilities. When relationships require deep emotional engagement, you may instinctively withdraw, fearing entanglement that could compromise your autonomy. But here's the truth. Connection doesn't have to mean dependency, logic, and emotion. The key for Sigmas is not to abandon their independence, but to integrate emotional intelligence into their lives. Emotional intelligence doesn't mean becoming overly expressive. It means understanding, recognizing, and managing emotions effectively. Please acknowledge that emotions, whether suppressed or expressed, influence your decisions. Selective vulnerability. You don't have to open up to everyone, but letting the right people in strengthens bonds without sacrificing independence. Controlled expressions. Finding ways to express emotions, even in small doses, can prevent internal isolation. At the end of the day, the Sigma male's strength lies in balance. Independence without isolation, logic without emotional suppression, strength without rigidity. Master this, and you become unstoppable. Number 2, the Achilles heel, the hidden cost of emotional armor. Let's be real, Sigmas. You've got emotions, but you treat them like classified intel, locked away in a vault with no combination. You've built an identity around resilience, self-sufficiency, and a level of emotional control that would make a poker champion jealous. But here's the hard truth. Just because you ignore your emotions doesn't mean they disappear. They just resurface in ways you don't expect. Like an unexpected outburst, moments of self-doubt, or a deep, unexplained sadness that creeps in when you least expect it. The myth of emotional detachment. There's a common misconception that Sigma males don't feel emotions deeply. That's false. In fact, many Sigmas experience emotions more intensely than most, but they process them internally rather than express them outwardly. This ability to compartmentalize is useful. It keeps you from reacting impulsively, allowing you to assess situations with logic rather than emotion. However, there's a fine line between control and suppression. Studies in psychology suggest that repressed emotions don't disappear. They manifest in the body and mind in ways you might not recognize. Suppressed anger can turn into stress-related illnesses. Unprocessed sadness can evolve into numbness or depression. Your mind finds ways to process emotions, whether you acknowledge them or not. Emotions are like weights. Lift them wisely. Think of emotions like weights at the gym. If you refuse to lift them, they don't vanish. They just sit there, accumulating until they become too heavy to ignore. The strongest Sigma isn't the one who avoids emotions, but the one who learns how to carry them without breaking. Emotional strength isn't about ignoring pain. It's about learning to handle it constructively. Just as physical training makes you stronger, emotional awareness makes you more powerful. Handling emotions properly means 1. Identifying triggers. Pay attention to what causes emotional responses. Are there patterns? Certain situations, people, or thoughts that ignite frustration or sadness? Awareness is the first step to control, instead of suppressing. Instead of burying emotions, give them space to be understood. This doesn't mean oversharing or being overly expressive. It means acknowledging what you feel so it doesn't control you. Sigmas excel at logic, and emotions don't have to be the enemy of rationality. You can analyze what you're feeling, break it down, and address it intelligently rather than reactively. 4. Channeling emotions productively. Some of history's greatest minds, think Nikola Tesla, Albert Einstein, and even Bruce Lee, understood the power of controlled emotions. They channeled them into creation, discipline. Mastering the vault. Emotional intelligence isn't weakness. It's a power move. The Sigma who learns to manage emotions without being controlled by them is the one who truly stands above the rest. A locked vault eventually rusts shut, but a controlled, well-maintained one, that's a fortress. Having said this, what will you do? Keep stacking weights until they crush you, or master them and build unshakable strength? An illusion of total control. Here's the truth. Sigma's control is your stronghold, your defining trait. You're self-reliant, calculated, and always 10 steps ahead. You've mastered the art of emotional detachment, staying cool under pressure while others crumble. The moment you believe you have total control, life reminds you that you don't. Think about it. Love, loss, betrayal. These forces don't negotiate with logic. You can't outthink heartbreak. You can't strategize your way out of grief. And you can't predict human nature with perfect accuracy. The illusion of total control is just that, an illusion. But let's get one thing straight. This doesn't mean you're powerless. Quite the opposite. Your true power comes from knowing what you can control and letting go of what you can't. The stubbornness trap. You pride yourself on being adaptable, but even Sigmas fall into a dangerous trap. It's not the loud, ego-driven kind you see in alphas. It's quieter, more insidious. It's the belief that if you just think harder, prepare better, or detach more, you can avoid chaos altogether. But life doesn't work that way. Imagine you're a martial artist, skilled, disciplined, and trained to anticipate every move. You know how to dodge, counter, and strike with precision. But life doesn't fight fair. It doesn't throw predictable punches. It doesn't follow the rules of engagement. It rewrites them mid-fight. Maybe you trusted someone only for them to betray you. Maybe you had a plan and it fell apart in an instant. Maybe you built a fortress of independence, only to find yourself longing for connection. The moment you try to force control over what's uncontrollable, you set yourself up for frustration and, ironically, a loss of control. How to maintain true control. The real mastery isn't in controlling everything. It's in controlling yourself no matter what happens, and stirring emotional agility. Instead of suppressing emotions, acknowledge them, process them, and use them strategically. Knowing when to adapt. Flexibility is Sigma's secret weapon. When life shifts, shift with it. Choosing response over reacts. A Sigma never reacts impulsively. When life throws chaos your way, step back, assess, and then move. Letting go of the illusion. Control what's in your hands, your mindset, your actions, and your rest. Accept it, adapt to it, and move forward. Sigmas, your strength isn't in fighting life. It's in navigating it with precision. Control is a tool, not a prison. Master that, and you truly stay ahead. Number 4. The Sigma male's greatest battle, himself. Sigma males are known for their independence, intelligence, and ability to move through life without seeking validation. They thrive in solitude, making their own rules and refusing to conform to societal expectations. But what happens when the very traits that make them strong also become their biggest weakness? The truth is, a Sigma male's greatest challenge isn't external. It's internal. It's not the world that can break him. It's his own resistance to vulnerability, to connection, to admitting that even lone wolves need to rest. The dilemma of self-sufficiency. Sigma males are fiercely independent, and while that's a strength, it can also be a limitation. Their natural tendency to rely only on themselves means they often reject support, even when it's necessary. Society may glorify self-reliance, but the reality is that every great mind, every powerful leader, and every lone wolf at some point needed a pack, even if just for a moment. Consider the great historical and modern thinkers. Many of them, from Nikola Tesla to Steve Jobs, had moments of solitude that fueled their genius. But even they relied on collaboration at key moments. Tesla had financial backers. Jobs had his team at Apple. No one truly rises alone. The fear of vulnerability. Sigma males often walk away from genuine connections, not because they don't value them, but because deep down, they fear what comes with them. Emotional exposure. They associate vulnerability with weakness. But in reality, vulnerability is a form of courage. True strength isn't about standing alone at all costs. It's about knowing when to allow someone in, when to trust, and when to lean on others without feeling like you've compromised your identity. The risk of burnout. The lone wolf mentality has another drawback: exhaustion. Sigma males push themselves hard, often refusing to acknowledge when they need rest. But just like a high-performance engine, even the best minds and strongest wills need maintenance. Ignoring this need for rest and rejuvenation can lead to burnout, isolation, and even depression. The solution: balancing strength and connection. The key isn't to abandon Sigma traits, but to refine them. True mastery of life isn't just about knowing how to be alone. It's about knowing when to engage. Strength isn't just about independence. It's about adaptability. The most powerful Sigma males understand this balance. They know that accepting help doesn't mean giving up control. They recognize that emotional intelligence is just as valuable as strategic thinking. Are you truly in control, or is your refusal to connect controlling you? Number 5. The path forward: mastering the balance. Sigmas, let's get one thing straight. Mastering yourself isn't about shutting down emotions. It's about understanding. Emotional intelligence is what separates a strong man from a reckless one. The ability to control your emotions without being controlled by them is a skill that few men develop, but it's what sets you apart as a true Sigma. 1. Recognize the signs. Ever noticed how, when life gets overwhelming, you tend to push people away or go into full shutdown mode? That's not strength. That's self-preservation kicking in. The question is, what exactly are you protecting yourself from? Fear of rejection, fear of looking weak. Identifying the root cause is the first step toward true emotional mastery. Next time you feel the urge to withdraw, take a step back and analyze the emotion. Is it anger, frustration, disappointment, Recognizing the emotion helps you control your reaction instead of letting it control you. 2. Allow controlled vulnerability. Sigmas are lone wolves, but even a lone wolf knows when to rely on his pack. The key here is controlled vulnerability, sharing only with those who've earned your trust. Society often confuses emotional openness with weakness, but that's far from the truth. True intelligence is knowing when, where, and with whom to open up. When you strategically allow the right people in, you build stronger connections without sacrificing your independence. 3. Practice emotional discipline. Think of emotional control like physical training. You don't become a warrior overnight. Just like building muscle, you have to train your mind consistently. Start with small exercise. Take a breath. If anxiety creeps in, shift your focus to the present moment. When negative thoughts flood your mind, reframe them into constructive ones. With time, this discipline becomes second nature, and you'll find yourself mastering emotions rather than being at their mercy. 4. Redefine strength. Strength isn't about avoiding emotions. It's about standing firm in the face of them. A strong man doesn't run from fear. He confronts it without losing himself. Facing your fears, embracing challenges, and allowing yourself to feel while maintaining control is the mark of a true Sigma. When you redefine strength this way, you become unstoppable, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally as well. Sigma's mastering yourself means mastering your emotions. It's not about suppression. It's about strategic control. Train your mind like you train your body, and you'll dominate life on your terms. Sigmas, the world sees you as untouchable, and in many ways, you are. But true strength isn't about being impenetrable. It's about knowing when to let the right things in. The strongest Sigma isn't the one who shuts out emotions. It's the one who learns to navigate them without losing his edge. So if you're ready to evolve, if you're ready to take the next step in mastering your mindset, then join this community. Subscribe, like this video, and keep sharpening yourself. Because at the end of the day, the only true weakness is the one you refuse to acknowledge. Having said this,